Hello, everyone. This is going to be a reading of my poetry book, Space Cow. Space Cow is divided into 5 sections, each with about 10 poems in them. Today we're going to be reading Part 1, The Storytellers. So these poems tell little short stories. And this video is also featuring footage from my betta tank with my betta fish Aqua. So let's begin. This is Poem 1, Milky Way. There was once a cow who lived on a farm by the bay. She grew tired of the same fields and the same barn every day, until she leapt from a sea cliff, not knowing how to swim, and with no wings to lift. So God flipped the world upside down, and she landed among the stars. Now she bounds from planet to planet every night, without any sort of stress or plight. And although the earth is upside down to this day, you can still look into the night sky and see her Milky Way. Now this is Poem 2, Big Black Hounds. The big black hounds, they howl on the shore, yes. The big black hounds, they howl on the shore, waiting for the masters to return home. The big black hounds, they protect the masters' wives, yes. The big black hounds, they protect the masters' wives as the storms rage. For the sailors, they are away at sea, yes, the sailors, they are away at sea, fishing far from the harbor. The poor stray cats, they yowl for more milk, yes, the poor stray cats, they yowl for more milk, for the fishing boats never came. The big black hounds, they chase away the little stray cats, yes, the big black hounds chase away the little stray cats, so they don't steal any food. The wives, they mourn with their sons and daughters, yes, the wives mourn with their sons and daughters as the hounds wait. This is now Poem 3, called Who Done It? There is a castle on the coast. Inside there is a party, of which a wealthy man hosts. Then he is murdered in the banquet hall. Now all of his guests just awkwardly stand around, wondering who would be the next to fall. A wraith of theories and rumors already begin to zigzag throughout the hushed group, trying to figure out which of them would be so low to stoop. With unfinished drinks in hand, the germ of distrust passes to another pair of eager lips, utterings of betrayal between hesitant sips. The authorities were called about an hour ago, but because of the blizzard outside, nobody came. After this night, the remaining would never be the same. Now this is Poem 4, entitled Trial and Tribulation. 2 mules saunter down a dusted road. Trial and tribulation they are called. One brown, the other gray, both come to bring destruction today. Behind them they carry a wagon filled with broken dreams. The 2 mules not as innocent as they seem. Trial and tribulation stomp on the farmlands, crushing homes beneath their hoofs. They knock rocks and boulders down the cliffside, then steal the remaining loaves. The families left hungry and homeless without their bread or roofs. Once finished with their selfish play, trial and tribulation disappear into the desert, kicking up dust and pushing through the sage. To the next little town they roam. Next is poem 5, entitled 3 Purple Fox Tales. This is one of my favorites. There was a fox, born being chased by 3 horrible fails. On the day she became too tired to keep running from them, she realized they were nothing more than her 3 purple tails. But the other foxes were not as surprised. In fact, they kept chasing her until early sunrise. "Change your terrible tails and be like us," they had yelled all through the night, even at daybreak, chanting it with all of their might. Before leaving that meadow for good to find a new home, the timid purple fox uttered a reply as brave as she could. "There are many yous in this world, like you and you and you and you, but there is only one me, so being not you is all I will be." This is poem 6, entitled The Winemaker. Down in the valley, in columns of vibrant green, nestle the purple fruits of his labor, of which the wise would be keen. For years he toiled, fending off birds that picked and snakes that coiled, timing everything just right. When they're ready, he harvests them by the baskets full, but it's still not complete. He then marches round and round, squishing them with his feet. Once the juice is all pressed out, it's time to stir in the yeast, and they ferment in wooden cylinders, hidden from a thirsty world in its feasts. When the process is all finished, the winemaker smiles with pride. He bottles up his indigo gold, the thick sour liquid served to groom and bride. When one takes that first sniff, and then puckers their lips at the edge of a glass for that first sip, they can't help but savor every last drip. Silently they thank the Lord and praise the winemaker. Now we have poem 7, entitled Fialova. His friends asked him whatever happened to his first love. He parted his lips with a sigh, and this was his reply: "Her name was Fialova, her eyes would enchant me still, and though I missed her so much, I'm glad she didn't keep in touch, because I see I no longer need her. I hope that doesn't sound mean, but what I mean is, I've learned to live without her eyes, her pretty laugh, her sweet, sweet lies. I had to move on when she moved along." His first love found him again, and reached out, asking if he would like to try again. He pressed down the tip of his quill with a sigh, and this was his reply: "My first darling Fialova, your eyes would enchant me still. And though I missed you so much, I'm glad we didn't keep in touch, because I see I no longer need you. I hope that doesn't sound mean, but what I mean is, I've learned to live without your eyes, your facade laugh, your deceiving lies. I had to move on when you moved along." After he rejected his first love's second letter and ignored her third, he asked his new amour what she thought of the situation. She parted her lips with a sigh, and this was her reply: "Your first darling Fialova, she gave you such a thrill, and though you missed her so much, I'm glad you didn't keep in touch, because I see she's a part of the life that made you into the man you are now. But now you're a man who belongs to me, and I don't plan to ever move along." And he replied with a smile, "And I don't plan to ever move on." A few nights later, there was a knock at their apartment door, and when they opened it together, his first darling Fialova stumbled back in shock, for she had grown even more stubborn, and she would die on this hill. With a gasp she parted her lips, and this was her greeting: "Oh, darling, how I've missed you so much. I've tried so hard to keep in touch. Why have you been so mean? Can't you see that I still need you? But you've made it clear, I am no longer the one that you hold dear. Why are people always moving along? Oh, why can't I ever move on? Next is poem 8, which is entitled A Pet Fit for a Pirate Prince. Lupe sat in the belly of his father's ship, the contents of his belly swaying with the waves and gurgling with every dip. That's when he looked up to the sound of boots, trot, trot, trot down the stairs. The door swung open to reveal the captain, a pillager of loots. Lupe, my boy, I've got you something, the captain jollied, with a beady look in his eyes, holding something behind his back. He slowly revealed a little glass critter trap with a woman from the mayfly kingdom inside. Lupe's eyes widened. He had never seen a live mayfly, for his father's crew hunted them to near extinction. The land folk loved to turn their wings into jewelry and decoration. The captain tossed the trap, and Lupe lurched forward to catch it, but the mayfly had fallen back. Now she was upside down and pressed against the opposite wall of the trap. She pulled her ringlet curls out of the way, revealing a powerful little glare on her face, and she got herself turned around and upright, with dignity and grace. Lupe could see her leotard-like clothing was made from flower petals. She stretched out her wings to straighten them out, and Lupe marveled at them like the most precious of metals. Stitched together with spider web, it was like thin intersecting crystals. In sharp tails were designs that looked like flat human eyes, and when they fluttered, they hummed like a harp. They seemed to phase in and out of reality with the way they reflected the light. One moment almost completely clear, the next shining with the brilliant colors of the northern lights, leaving poor Lupe in a daze. With a satisfied laugh, the captain left Lupe alone with his new pet, closing the door before letting in a draft. Once he knew they were alone, Lupe quickly got up and opened a window. Sunshine cascaded through, and a chilling breeze came in with a moan. Then he got out his knife and began to pick at the lock on the trap. When it finally popped open, Lupe sat back and gestured toward the window. "You're free. You have to go, please, before my father comes back," for it was a life of cages he wanted her to lack. The mayfly's eyes were wide, and her tiny pink lips quivered. She crawled frantically out of the trap and onto the table. She tried flapping her wings with a frown, and they glowed as she shakily hovered for a moment before they flickered and she fell back down. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" Lupe leaned forward. She looked up at him and pressed her hands to her stomach. Lupe squinted and saw he could see her ribs, and she longingly looked over with a sigh at the still warm bowl of broth and noodles nearby. "Oh," he grabbed the spoon, "you're hungry," and carefully brought it in front of the mayfly. "Here." She stood on her toes of tip and placed her hands at the edge of the spoon to steady it and herself. She angled her head down and began to sip. The mayfly pulled away to take a breath, her cheeks flushed from the heat, her body becoming filled with nourishment and serenity. Lupe stirred the broth so he could see the different ingredients bob up. He scooped a bit of bok choy, mushroom, red pepper, rice noodle, green onion, and carrots. The mayfly, excited at the sights, picking at and munching on the pieces, taking sips of broth in between the bites. When she was finished, she took a few steps back, looking satisfied. The mayfly reached for her side, but saw that nothing was in her belt made of vines. Then she looked into the trap and pulled out what looked like a tiny needle. Though small, in that moment she looked as mighty as the mightiest lord, and Lupe chuckled. "It appears you're going to need a bigger sword." This is now poem 9, which is called The Sea Maiden. Little Adelaide, age 6, wrapped up in her favorite blanket, goes out onto the porch with a cup of cocoa. The world is a hazy, glittering gray from the morning sea mist. She looks up at her father. She's such an itty-bitty thing next to him, and he a protective sentinel beside her. She asks him, "Pa, where does the mist come from?" "It comes from the sea. The wind carries it from the ocean to the shore," he answers, his deep voice climbing through his beard, to be met with briny, frigid air in a crystallized puff. "But why? How?" Adelaide asks. He smiles down at her, squinty eyes barely glinting beneath beanie. He sits down on the steps of the porch and gestures to the space beside, and she sits down with curious eyes. "Let me tell you a story, Addie," he begins, looking wistfully out into the silvery nothing, knowing instinctively where the sand meets the ocean in the distance. "There was once a pirate, and he led his crew with an iron fist. He only had a soft spot for his rambunctious daughter. On his deathbed he made her captain, but the crew did not want to listen to the command of a woman. They pretended to hold her word in high esteem for a while, out of respect for the dead man, but just like love, you can't hide hatred forever. So they conspired and threw her overboard, into the dark, cold waves. Most wouldn't have survived, but you see, her father taught her the ways of the sea. She knew her like a mother. She fought until slits in her neck and in between her ribs opened up, and the salt water began rushing in through them. Her eyes shot open, now hardened and lit up like embers, with new webbing that stretched between her fingers. She swam up to the surface. The water inside her transformed into mist and got expelled into the air all around her. She could breathe in an entirely new way. She swore she would help other women tossed about by the hand of man. You see, Addie, the mist all around us that visits with every sunrise is the breath of women that men tried but could not drown, shouting, singing, 'I'm still here.'" Lastly, we have poem 10, which is entitled Thrall of the Rat King. This one was especially fun to write. A young rat of pleasant manner, by the name of Salty Cracker, decided to leave the surface of the city and all its uptown glamour. Down into the sewers he scurried and trudged, through the waste and over the sludge, to find more of his kind, leaving the life of a loner behind. That's when he came across another, a rat named Cookie Crumb, who took him in like a mother, and she led him to her clan that hid from the sun. They welcomed Salty Cracker with open paws, bestowing him with gifts and even applause, which was odd to Salty Cracker. He hadn't accomplished anything worthy of this. As the days passed by, or was it nights? It was hard to tell the time down here. The clan taught him the way of enlightenment. We must all tie our tails together tight. Salty Cracker didn't like that idea, so he chuckled awkwardly and bid them farewell. They made expressions like he had just said something odd, or they had smelt an awful smell. "No, Salty Cracker, you're one of us now. One of us, one of us, one of us. Stay with your new family. Stay in your new home. Who else will you bond with? Where else will you go? Don't you want to feel a connection so strong?" So they grabbed Salty Cracker and sang him their Rat King song. He fought and he fought, but oh, they were right. Nodding their tails together, it just felt so right. It was like they formed a brand new creature. It put him on a cerebral high ground, and the idea of leaving it all caused a fear, a sting that was visceral. Over time his sanity slipped and his brain washed away, succumbing to the thrall of the Rat King. That ends part 1 of Space Cow. If you would like to hear more readings of the rest of Space Cow, parts 2 through 5, please like and subscribe. If you would like to have your own copy of Space Cow, which includes illustration in the physical format, it is available to order on Amazon and also can be found in the Barn Owl bookstore in McCall, Idaho. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.